B&B on the track.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since you've seen me, possibly 4 or maybe even 5 weeks. I've been doing quite a few bits. I've been doing motorbike theory revision, passed my motorbike theory test. I'll explain a bit more in the video about that. I'm looking to basically do my A2 license. I'm 21 years old, not 24 yet, so I can't do my direct access. But I'm looking to get a motorbike at some point in the future. Be something great for the channel. And also, been buying a few bits for the RS3. And to be honest, I've just been saving a little bit of money so I can buy some more parts. I didn't feel like I should be making videos just for the sake of being consistent, because those videos weren't necessarily videos I really wanted to make. I kind of wanted to wait until I had the money for parts or materials to create content that I'd sooner enjoy. Which then leads me on to today's video, which, as you can tell by the title, stupidly, or maybe not stupidly, I've decided that I'm going to respray some of the trims on the bumper of the RS3. I've seen loads of pictures online of some people who have added some black accents to the front of their bumper. Parts like this trim that goes across the top of both intake vents, and also I'm going to be respraying this bottom lip, which is usually fixed to the underside of the bumper there. It is Suzuka grey, but I'm not going to be spraying this black or anything. This is going to go back to Suzuka grey. However, as you can see, it's clearly been up against the pavement a couple of times, and you can't really see it in this light, but it is a bit scratched up. It's faded at a different rate from the rest of the bumper because it's not as visible from the sunlight. So that's going to go back to Suzuka grey, and I'm also going to be spraying this lowest part of the bumper black too. You probably think I'm mad, but just wait until you see the final results and hopefully it looks good. Just quickly, before we get into masking and sanding and all that, I'm going to show you some parts later in the video that have arrived for the RS3. Really excited to fit them, and stay tuned. What seems to literally feel like 3 hours later, the front bumper's finally off. So long-winded, I had to take the wheels off, take the arch liners out, a load of bolts from the inside. I even thought I had to take the headlights out, so I pissed about with that for ages, even though I didn't need to take those out. Long story short, it's finally off and took forever. So as you can see from yesterday's clip, I looked half dead. I literally left work, picked up the paint I'm about to show you, and started stripping that. I didn't think it would take as long as it did. I said 3 hours in the video, it didn't actually take 3 hours. It probably did take near 2 hours though. Had to take both wheels out, as I said, all the arch liners out. It's just fiddly getting your hand right behind the wing. There's a few bolts either side that you've got to take out, which disconnect the wing from the bumper. And then you realise halfway through you've got to take the remainder of the arch liner out near the bottom so you can access some bolts from below. Take all the ones out from underneath and then unclip it all. Anyway, enough rambling. The stuff I'm going to be using today, I'm going to give you a brief rundown. Bought myself some flexible masking tape, as those top trims are curved, so I can curve it around rather than having to do straight piece cut, etc. Some 1-inch masking tape and 2-inch masking tape. It's probably really ancient, it's been in the garage for so long, so hopefully it doesn't cause any gummy marks or anything. On eBay, bit worrying, eh? eBay Paint is actually a separate company. We've got an eBay account. WLW Auto Paints mixed up some Suzuka grey metallic for me, so I can do the respray on the bottom part of the bumper that's staying grey. It also comes with grey primer, and it also came with some lacquer, but I didn't go with that. I got some Body Shop lacquer for myself. I'm going to be using that instead, and some trusty Halfords black. Fingers crossed it gives me a good finish. Worst case scenario, it doesn't look great, I'll just go to a body shop. But for the sake of content and for the sake of saving some money, I thought I'd do this myself and see how it turns out and take you along with me. I almost forgot, sandpaper. I got 4 sheets of 400 grit sandpaper. I'm going to be using 400 grit to remove all of the current paint that's on the car. And then finally, 2000 grit, which is very, very fine. Almost like regular paper, to be honest with you. And I'm going to be using this for wet sanding after I prime it and possibly after my first coats of paint. So if the finish is left a little bit coarse, not too smooth after the primer, I'll wet sand it back so it's nice and smooth. So when I lay my first coat of paint, it's lovely and smooth. The reason I went for 2000 and not 1500 is because I'm using black paint, it makes it a little bit easier for you to still see slight scratches once you've done your clear coat. So it's a bit safer to go with 2000 if you're going with dark paint. If I was going for something like blue or greens, you can get away with using 1500 grit and not really have to worry about seeing any scratches. Before anyone starts in the comments, I'm no professional at doing this, just learned a little bit online and see what I can do. So the first thing I'm starting with, guys, I'm going to get my flexible masking tape and I'm going to start masking off this area here. So I'm just exposing this trim. I'll do the same on that side, and then I'll mask off all of this grille and that grille, and I'm going to run a straight line along here So all I'm exposing is this top part here. So guys, as you can see, I have taped off everything in terms of this side of the trim, and I'm now going to start along this line here to expose this piece. Right guys, we're more or less there now with all the masking. Obviously covered up all the vents with some brown paper. Done this side off camera too, most of it anyway, nice and neat. I was thinking about leaving the masking until I've done the sanding, but basically these trims can't come off unless you're willing to like plastic weld them back on underneath again. So I decided to mask it off now, so when I'm sanding I don't accidentally start sanding the part I don't want to paint. I'm now going to start with the 400 grit sandpaper. I'll do the rest of the taping up once the sandpaper's all done, once the sanding's done, sorry. But for the meantime, that should give me enough protection so I don't accidentally scratch the good paint. Right guys, that's the sanding all complete with the 400 grit. Pretty time consuming, especially when you're trying to fit into these tiny little cracks on the top side and the underside. So what I'm going to do now, have a bit of a clean up in here. Then I'm going to wipe it all down with alcohol so it's dust free, let it dry. I'm going to correct any bits of masking tape that I damaged slightly with the sanding, so that when I spray it doesn't go anywhere I don't want it to. So I'll get that done and get back to you in a minute. So the bumper's finally prepped for primer. We finished bagging the rest of the bumper off so I don't get any overspray. Draped some sheets over the stuff in the garage. It's all completely dry, clean of dust, so I'm going to set the camera up and we'll start our primer. So I'm going to do the second coat of primer off camera, and if I need to wet sand it, I'll see you then. If not, I'll see you for gloss black. Right guys, it's been a good few hours. Off camera I've painted, or primed rather, the lower lip part of the bumper. So now I'm going to go ahead, get the 2000 grit sandpaper, wet and dry sandpaper, a bottle full of water, wet sand this, and also the bumper which is now outside in the garden. Once that's done, I'll let it dry and start the base coat. Definitely due another haircut as well. that is coat number 1 done of the gloss black. Maybe a little too heavy in some places, but it doesn't really matter too much. Taking a risk and doing it outside. That's the second coat done. So we've just done the last coat of gloss black on the trims on the bumper. Next up, we're going to be using the clear coat. I'm going to leave it about half hour. It might be getting too dark, so it might be that I do the clear coat tomorrow. I'm going to do 4 to 5 wet coats, or maybe 3 or 4 wet coats. Once that's done, I'm going to make a start on the small trim, which is going to be Suzuka Grey. And then again, I'll be doing clear coat on that as well. So guys, moving on from the paint a minute, you remember at the start of the video I said I got a few bits for the RS3 that I'm ready to fit. I thought I'd take the opportunity while the clear coat's drying to quickly show you what I was on about. So to start off with, I've been browsing on Awesome GTI and I've got myself, for the fronts, a set of 11mm spacers by Forge. I originally bought 2 pairs, 4 spacers in total, 11 at the front and 11 at the back. However, I decided to get a set of springs. I toyed with the fact of getting some Ibacks because I've been told they're much firmer, they're a much softer ride than H&Rs, and they only drop the fronts 20mm and they don't actually do a set for the rears. In my head, I was set on that because I know the back's quite low anyway. However, I changed my mind because these were so cheap. I found these for 160 quid, a set of H&Rs, which drop the front supposedly 25 at the front and 20 at the rear. I've been told that the shocks the standard shocks on the Rs3 AP aren't the best. It might be that I upgrade them at some point. So what I've done is I sold the 11mm spacers, one pair that were going to be on the back, and I got some 8mm for the rear because I've heard a lot of people get a lot of rubbing, 10mm and above. Some people somehow get away with it. I know you can take a little screw out the wheel arch and you're okay. So I've got 8mm for the rear, 11mm for the front. Got the extended wheel nuts, obviously, bolts rather. And then here we've got the springs themselves. Chunky monkeys. So I'm going to go to a garage and get these fitted professionally. I don't want to piss about myself, and I ain't got spring compressors or any of the right kit anyway. I've been told that four-wheel drive cars are a bit of a bitch to fit springs on anyway, because of drive shafts, etc. Just to show you, there's your rear and here's your front spring. So I'm excited to fit those. It should make the fitment, it should look really, really smart. And also, got myself a pair of wind deflectors by Team Hecko. I used to have Team Hecko wind deflectors on my first car, my Punto, and also my Mark II Focus ST. I think they look pretty smart, and also, for those of you probably got the same issue, in the Rs3 AP, if you put your washer jets on and you're driving, water pisses inside the car from the window. It's not designed brilliantly, so you get a load of water that drips into the car, so this should prevent that. And when it rains as well, I know you shouldn't really have your window down when it rains, but even if you've got it down the slightest bit, it seems to track in easily rather than following the contour of the window itself. So you've got a set for the front and a set for the back. I'm not sure if I'm going to fit the rears because I think it looks quite smart just on the front. But yeah, a few more bits for the Rs3 which are going to look great. I finally finished the clear coat on the bumper. It actually looks really, really good. I've got an LED light, so I'm going to show you it now. It's really glossy as it is, but once it's on the car and I've let it cure properly, I'll give it a good polish. I might even wet sand it 2000 grit and then buff it up nicely, so it's got a really good shine on it, but I'll show you now. There's a tiny amount of orange peel, nothing major. So once again, like I said, I'll use the 2000 grit and a bit of polish and get rid of that. But for a rattle can job, I'm really, really pleased with it. It's nice to fill and paint over some of those stone chips that were there as well. Sorry for the poor pictures here, guys. I'm trying to film with my left hand. So guys, that is it complete. I'm honestly so happy with how it turned out. All I need to do now is once it's fully cured, I'm going to give this a good buff. I mean, it's really glossy as it is, as you can tell, really shiny, really, really good finish in the end. What I'm going to do is give it a good buff once it's fully cured, because I know like if I was to stick my nails in it now, it will still be a little bit soft, and it probably will be for a good few days. So I'll get it on the car this evening, being really careful. I won't buff it until maybe the end of the week, next week. Obviously there's a few little gummy marks on the plastic, as I left the masking tape on for way longer than you should have. You meant to leave masking tape on for like 6 to 8 hours maximum, else it will start peeling like it did. I kept having to put more tape down to keep the old stuff on. And yeah, obviously I've got a lot of gummy residue, but nothing that's affected the paintwork at all. Really, really good. I mean, you're not going to see the underneath anyway, but even so, it's nice. It was nice to fill some of these scratches that had been put in there too. So guys, it's a few hours later. Let the car cure a little bit, let the paint go a little bit harder. Put it all back on, wheels are on, everything's ready to go. I'll show you the results. How good does that look? such a simple little addition to the car, but it makes such a big difference. Really, really pleased with how it turned out. Like I said, I'm going to leave it about a week or so before I polish it and give it a good shine. I just want that paint to cure 100% before I do. The bottom Suzuki trim is also on, I painted. Looking really, really smart. Really good colour match, actually. Actually looks so good. If you ever made it this far in the video, guys, thank you very much. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'm going to wrap the video up there. Shortly we'll be fitting some of those new parts that I've got in the garage or that I've got in the conservatory that I showed you earlier on. Looks so good in the background. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.